Rosa, and I am the head of production at the Gentlemen Baristas. I'm basically in charge of all the coffee sourcing and everything that comes down from there. So roasting, packaging, a lot of different things, but my main job would be the coffee menu that the Gentlemen Baristas are serving. I think the fact that I am a female in this position is relatively rare in this industry, as the industry is specifically in the roasting environment is massively male dominated, and specifically when it comes to higher positions like where I am, there's only, I don't want to say handful of us females in sourcing positions, because I do know there's women who are working in sourcing, but generally there is not many of us. So yeah, unique in that sense. The way I got into coffee in the first place was when I studied in Helsinki University and I needed a job to finance my living and ended up working in a cafe, and basically it was my second week in that job. They took me to a training into a roastery, and from that day on I realized that coffee is so much more than what I thought it was. Obviously, so I'm originally from Finland, and in our country you start drinking coffee very early age, and you drink, like we drink a lot of coffee. I think the Netherlands have now taken our place as like most coffee consumption per capita, or like per person, but Finnish people do drink a lot of coffee. But the coffee that Finnish people drink is very bad quality, or lower quality than what it could be. And from that training that I did, I realized that there is this whole different dimension when it comes to coffee, and with like everything that comes into it. And yeah, from that day on I was very fascinated, but obviously I was studying. But during my studies I ended up working with various different cafes. I think my pivoting point, how I ended up deciding that coffee has to be my thing, was when I did exchange year in London University, and ended up working in a place called Nude Espresso, and they have got a roastery just across the road from the cafe. And pretty much, if not every day, I'll be at least every other day pestering the roastery staff and asking all the questions and going to their cuppings, and I think at that point I realized that coffee could be a career, because they were obviously their head of coffee, there was a head roaster, they had, I think that at that point they had also like other two roasters or like production staff, and I was just like, wait, like I really want to do that. And yeah, pestered them, got a few shifts at the roastery, and I was just like, I think at that point, this was in 2013 to 2014, I decided that coffee has to be my career. And then I went back to Finland, and during that year I was just like, nah, I need to move back to UK and get a job in coffee and start seeing if this could be a career. And in 2015 I started working at a roastery, and ever since then I've been working in roasteries, and yeah, still here. Roastery is a place where many people don't know, but coffee, when it lands into the country, we call it green coffee because it literally is the color of green. That's basically the seed of the cherry. I'm doing this because there are often two seeds in the cherry, and they get processed, dried, and the dried product gets shipped. And then what we do at the roastery is we turn that product into soluble material, which is the coffee beans that people buy and use in their cafes and so on. Also in the roasteries, in here we do all of our quality control. We do weekly cuppings, all the buying cuppings, or like testing cuppings. All the coffee is packed and processed for deliveries in here. It's basically the factory where the consumable product is made. A cupping is the process of tasting coffee. So, and the reason why it's called cupping is because it literally is cups where the coffee is weighed out, and then water is poured on top of the coffee grounds, and it's like a unique process of tasting coffee, because obviously the best way of tasting many coffees at the same time, because obviously in other ways, if we would want to taste all of that, we would have to brew all of the coffees. But by this way, tasting from the cups with a certain method, with a spoon, we are able to evaluate different coffees at the same time. Or sometimes, like when you come here during the busiest days, like the whole table is full of cups with coffee, and yeah, that's basically the process of evaluating coffee. Originally, coffee comes from the Arabica coffee comes from Ethiopia, but from Ethiopia it's spread across the world. And for example, we buy coffee all across the globe, depending on the seasons of the harvests. Yeah, generally you can buy coffee. I think our main, well, now I'm saying this and I'm thinking we do have Ethiopian coffee on the menu, but a lot of our coffees come from South and Central America. Those are our sort of main focus points in terms of flavor profile and what we are looking for from the coffees. So it does require certain climate in order to grow. So it's grown sort of on both sides of the equator. So in Europe, you can't grow coffee. Not yet, at least, but who knows with the global warming. But at the moment, actually, one of the risks in the coffee industry is that as the global is getting warmer, the coffee has to go on higher altitudes, but then there is only so many altitudes that it can grow. I think that the highest growing coffee, I know from Bolivia, for example, there are some coffees that are growing in 2,200 meters above sea level. But at the moment, also what the researchers are trying to do is to find a coffee varietal that would grow, that would be similar kind of quality to Arabica, but would grow on a lower, hotter environment. But it's like coffee is kind of like wine, that it requires certain microclimate, if you would call it so, in order to grow. And in that you have to have good soil, drainage, wind, rain, all that, everything together in order for the coffee to grow. So there are other types of coffee beans. So the Arabica is obviously the main one, but there is also Robusta. We don't do any Robusta. It just doesn't have the same quality as Arabica. And generally, there isn't much specialty Robusta. So we are, like here when we are discussing about coffee, we're talking about specialty coffee, which means that the coffee is scored on a global scoring scale, and it has to score above 80 points. So for example, all of our coffees are scoring above 80. In order for the coffee to score above 80, it's incredibly hard for the farmer, because there's, so like myself, I'm a certified Arabica Q grader, which means that I'm able to, I'm certified to, for example, if there would be, this is just an example, if there would be a farmer, let's say in Peru, and they would want their coffee to be evaluated and scored on the specialty scale, they could ask quality graders, so Q graders, to go and, or they could send their samples, and we would score the coffee. We are, all the Q graders, you have to basically, it's a course and exams that you have to pass. I think there is 20 or 21 sensory exams and you have to be calibrated within the other key graders globally. So it's quite vigorous exam. It's very stressful, and you have to pass all the exams in order to become certified. So we would be able to score the coffee, give the farmer, okay, your coffee is scoring, we could say this one coffee scored 82, but one of the coffees scored 76. So the farmer could then go and do some work in terms of whatever the reason would have been that the coffee scored below 80 and didn't reach the specialty mark. They could go back and like often, not to say most of the times, but very often there can be like issues with processing or like uniformity, like that it's not picked correctly, or so that there would be like under and overripe coffee cherries picked in the same batch with the perfectly ripe ones, or there's lots of different reasons why it could be knocked down below 80. But basically, yeah. Then the farmer could do whatever needed in order, if they want to that coffee to score above 80, so that it can be sold as specialty, because specialty coffee costs more because of the fact that it's harder to make, etc. There's a lot of different things. It tastes better than below, like it has to basically, and this is all evaluated by taste. Okay. Of course, like we look at the green beans, there is a sample, but the main evaluation is done by taste. Just last week was the London Coffee Festival, and which was very interesting is that there were actually two companies that they are known for supermarket level coffee and non-specialty coffee, but they were both last week, they had some fantastic specialty coffee on their menus, and like I think that everyone was kind of like, wow, like what are they doing? Like, and I think that these bigger companies like Nestle or Starbucks or these type of companies, they do also have, they're starting to, they buy the big like bulk stuff that is sold in container loads, but they also have the access to, because of the fact that they have got huge buying volume and buying capacity, they can also access the more special lots, if you would say so. Yeah. So yeah, but I think that there is still quite big gap between specialty and commodity, because obviously of the score and how the coffee is sold and served. Last coffee that I would drink, that's a good question, because I would ask, who is it roasted by, who made it, all these kind of things. But I do, there is a farm in Bolivia called Finca Takesi, and they grow this specific, very beautiful varietal called Gesha on a very high altitude, and it's washed process, and it's the most beautiful coffee. Every single year when I drink it, I'm just like, oh, this is the reason why I'm still in this industry. Like, it's just, the flavor of that coffee just baffles me. It has got florality, it has got different fruits, it's just beautiful. Holy Grail. Well, that Takeshi Gesha isn't easy to get, but there are also, in Panama, they have got a lot of coffee that scores above 90, which is, at that level, coffee is like, the quality of the coffee is outstanding. It will have various different attributes why it scored that high, and there are some farms in Panama that it would be really hard to get hold of their coffee. And there are still farms, like many farms in Panama, whose coffees I've never tasted yet, purely because of the fact that they're really expensive, but there is also very low quantity of those coffees. And that's why, because there is a huge demand for those coffees, because of the fact that they score high, there is little availability, and then they also cost a lot. So yeah, I would say that probably some of the Panamanian coffees, but I don't know. Then at the same time, I do get to taste a lot of good coffees by my contacts. Yeah, I don't really know. I think that there isn't really. I can't say that there would be a coffee that I would be like that I would like to taste. Of course, like when it comes to, I say this, but now when I'm thinking about this more, I think that it would be coffee made by, like so in the coffee industry there are coffee competitions. So there is barista competition where person makes espresso based drinks. Then there is also Brewers Cup where they make hand brew. And often those ones, like when people, those who win the competition, I would love to taste, like if I could just have that specific brew that, or that espresso or whatever it is that they made in that competition at that time, and just give those ones a taste. I think that would be quite unique. I mean, that would require me to come world competition judge. Maybe one day. The reason why I would recommend or suggest people becoming roaster is there's various reasons. What I would say instead is why I would recommend people to work in a roastery is that if you have got passion for coffee, this is the place to be, because from roasting department there are so many different roles that you can do, because coffee isn't one dimensional. Like it's never to say, like for example, when I started as a production roaster, I knew already that this is not going to be it. Like there are various different things that I can do in this industry, and because it's, I'm not saying that it's relatively young, but it is, there is still roles that doesn't exist, and there is constantly like new roles made and coming up and so on. And because of the fact that there isn't, not one role is the same. Like I say that, like me as a person who is sourcing coffee, of course there is similarities when it comes to sourcing coffee in other companies, and you just source different coffees and different volumes and different scores and so on. It's still relatively the same role, but like my role in this company is different than, for example, my colleagues' same role in another company. So coffee, like as a career, can be so rewarding because you get to do so many different things and you can do different things. It's never to say that like if you are a roaster, you are only a roaster and you're going to stay forever roasting coffee beans. Like it's never like there isn't one role that would be like that. Of course, like if you're owner of a company, then it's maybe slightly different, but I think that's almost the beauty of this industry, that you can do lots of different things. So I've been working with the Gentlemen Baristas just over a year now. I spoke with Henry, one of the co-owners, prior to me joining this company. And at that time when I was speaking with Henry, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in the industry, and I wanted to find a role where I can grow in the role. And when Henry approached me and was like, yo, we might need a person like you, I was like, when I looked into the company and their ethos and their values and also the possibilities that this company could give me career-wise and personally, I was like, yeah, this is it. I mean, if you look at the Gentlemen Baristas as a company, there are a lot of people who've been in their roles for a long time, which is very unique in terms of the whole hospitality industry. Like people come and people go. That's like a saying that like has been said specifically in the coffee industry, has been said. I've heard that saying about a trillion times, and I'm in this company. When you look at the people in senior positions, for example, they've been in this company, many of them 3 years, 4 years. I don't know how long Ross have been here, but like a long time, which I think is indication of how people are treated in this company and how Ed and Henry together have created such a lovely working environment and culture in this company, which I was very attracted to. And since then I've just noticed how wonderful it is. So yeah, and for me, there was no one in this role basically before I joined, so it's been also great to create. At the moment, the menu that we are serving is something that like I've been working really hard to get in the shops and so on, and yeah. So the menu that we've created is we have got two different blends. We have got a darker blend and our so-called house blend. And as those who don't know, our coffees are served as, in the package you can see a hat. For example, our darker blend is a Gatsby hat, if you know the hat. And that's kind of we just felt that that hat was a good indication of the jagger blend that is like robust and like, you know, sturdy, warm, and just strong. So we have got that blend, and we have got our house blend, Deerstalker, which is our bestseller. It's sold in all of our shops. That's kind of going up a notch, I would say, from Gatsby in terms of blend. Then we have got two single origin espressos that can be also served as slightly stronger filter brew. The coffee profiles that we have made for those coffees are made in a way that they can be brewed with any brewing method. And those two single origin espresso ranges are, one of them is washed coffee and one of them is natural. And then we have got Top Hat and Racer. Then we have got three filter coffees. We have got Bowler, which is, if you know a bowler hat, it's round, it's classic, it's just, and this is basically what the filter coffee is. It's round, it's classic, it's that type of coffee that if you wish to put a tiny bit of sugar or milk in your coffee, in your filter coffee, we're like, yeah, you can do it with this one. Then we have got a boater hat, which is like a straw hat, and that is a very much of a summer hat. We wanted this coffee range, this filter range, to be sort of summery flavors, so you can expect like citrus fruits or berries or higher acidity potentially, just to give that vibrancy, like a fresh lemonade kind of thing. And then we have got our Propeller Hat, which is a filter range that we are serving all of our natural filter coffee. So because the hat has got a tiny little propeller on top, we thought that this is like a little bit fun, and some people, like when we were like going through all of these hats, we thought that it's potentially a little bit like childish as well. So we wanted this coffee range to be very much like tasting like boiled sweets and strawberries and candy and stuff like that, which at the moment it very much is tasting. It's a natural Ethiopian coffee at the moment. And then we have got Beanie, which is obviously Beanie is worn by everyone or can be worn by anyone, and that's our decaf range. So we have got altogether 8 to 9 coffees that we are serving overall in our shops and in our wholesale program all over. I don't really have my favorite one. I think that, so I mean, they're all good. But so when I drink coffee, it really depends on the mood. But recently I've been loving our coffee Bola. The coffee is from Colombia, from a farm called Los Vascos. and I just have got. I used to roast this coffee before in another company, and I've also visited Colombia. So I have got. I think that I have got like a personal relationship with this coffee. So yeah, I would have to say that one. It's just solid. It's so good. It's so well processed. It's just outstanding. So the difference between espresso and filter in our company comes from the roasting. So the filter coffees are profiled in a way that they are slightly lighter in terms of their roast profile, so that we want to emphasize the original characteristics of the origin of the beans as much as we can. And with filter coffee, often because people drink it just black, so we want to have all the flavors coming out. So if we would say that we would roast it slightly darker, we might not be able to taste all of the beautiful flavors because of the roast level. But when it comes to espresso, you do have to roast it ever so slightly, not more developedness, well, yeah, but also slightly darker, because we need to be able to extract the coffee. It's a very different brewing method. When we like, for example, when I'm buying coffee, I already in that moment decide what range the coffee is going to go for, or like how I would roast this coffee, like how am I going to profile this in order to get the certain flavors out from the coffee. And like, for example, in our house blend, at the moment is a blend of Brazil, Mexico. Those both coffees are just very sort of caramel, milk chocolate. There is a little bit of stone fruit, like a yellow stone fruit, but we want the coffee to be able to serve with milk drinks. So in order for it to come through from the milk, we need to roast it slightly darker than the filter ones, so that the person drinking the coffee can still taste the beans through the milk, because obviously milk is quite a strong taste. And we also at the moment, like, there is a lot of plant milks going on, so often those milks or milk alternatives or whatever we want to call them can be quite overpowering in terms of their taste. So that's why we profile the coffee slightly differently. That's a very long way of explaining filter and espresso. I personally really like old flat white. So yeah, for me, I often get this question if like people are like, oh, would you mind if I add a little bit of milk in this? I'm just like, it's okay. Like, I think that people need to drink coffee the way they like to drink it. Of course, there are times when for example, if the coffee is like really expensive and very fancy and all that jazz, I might not serve that to my mom, who can't drink coffee without milk. But for me, I get a lot of people like, oh, I'm so sorry, like I need to put sugar in it, or like I just can't drink it without milk. And I'm just like, go ahead, like I'm not the one to tell you how to drink your coffee. I can only suggest that maybe because this cup of coffee costs you £12, maybe don't put milk in it, because there is a reason why it costs £12 or £8 or whatever it is. We don't serve this coffee, but you can buy this type of coffees. And it's almost like, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily put an ice cube into the most expensive white wine. So it's kind of, or like can of Coke into the most expensive red wine. Like, I don't know. But then at the same time, if you want to do that, if you want to do it, I'm just like, go ahead. It's your drink. You drink whatever you want to drink. It's okay. I personally don't add any flavorings, because obviously there is so much flavor in coffee itself. But if you do, I don't. To me, I'm not the one to say no. But I do think that there is a place for everything. Yeah. Oh, dalgona. Absolutely disgusting. I don't know if during lockdown you saw this trend of people, everyone was making dalgona. It's just like a drink made with sugar. Is it made with sugar, water, and instant coffee? And then you whisk it or something, yeah. And yeah, not tasty. And it's such a, I'm just like, okay. Maybe that I could have a dalgona with caramel syrup or vanilla flavoring potentially. I never want to say no to anything. Like I'm always like up for a challenge, but I do think yeah, dalgona. It was almost like a lockdown thing, and well, I don't see anyone serving dalgona in their shops now, so yeah. Tea. Do I drink tea? You know what? So about a year ago or so, I really wanted to get into tea because I was like, oh, this is really cool. I got two friends, Joel and Louis, and they like their tea and like they know like, oh, you know, this one, like this green tea from here and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start learning about tea. But because I'm very into wine, I was like, I can't take another, like, I already have got coffee, I got wine, and tea was just like, I was like, I'm never gonna get my head around this thing. But I do enjoy herbal infusions, and sometimes I drink Earl Grey, but I know, like, every single time when I say this, people are like, what, you work in coffee? But I got very, I'm very sensitive to bitterness. I suppose that makes me a good taster. I don't know. But green teas, most of them, I can't take them because of the fact that they're just way too bitter. Same goes with black tea. So it's just different type of bitterness. And yeah, but I do drink tea sometimes. But I'm not like the British thing. Like the first time when I went up north with my partner, I was just like, oh my God, the amount of tea they drink. Like, what is this thing? You basically have to have a cup of tea in your hand the whole time. And I'm like, I don't like, yeah, it's just shocking. And it's not even just like a small cup of tea, it's like a mug. Yeah, that, no thank you. And maybe I'm just too Finnish, but yeah. One thing that I really want to mention is that I know that like this you're interviewing me right now, but this, like, to get the coffee out from this building is very much a teamwork. We are a team of 4, very close-knit team, and I could, like, we all need each other in this job, so I could not do my job without these people. Like, for example, I don't roast much anymore. Our roaster Joe roasts most of the coffees that the Gentlemen Baristas are serving at the moment. We also have got another lady working at the roastery called Ayla, and she also roasts some of the coffees. She's also absolute wizard when it comes to packaging. And then we also have got Ross, who is our roastery manager, and he just makes everything happen. Things that we didn't think that could happen, he's just like, yeah, coffee is already out from the building, and yeah. So that I want to emphasize the fact that it's not just me, there is a team behind this whole thing, and we all work together to make the best product.